Hey everybody, today I'm talking about Navegador, which is a 2010 release board game by Mac Gerdts. Plays 2 to 5 players, takes about an hour and a half to play. The game is set in the Mediterranean. You are basically explorers starting off in Portugal, trying to explore along the Mediterranean, eventually getting to Japan, I believe. The game is, as I said, by Mac Gerdts, who's very kind of famous for his rondel games, where you have basically a pawn and a wheel, and you can go 1 to 3 spaces around that wheel, depending which dictates which action you can take that turn. This game uses that mechanism very nicely, I may add, and let's go about how the game actually plays out. So the game is a Euro-style game. You're going to get points for, or going to win the game based on victory points at the end of the game, and you can do that by focusing on a number of different strategies. Mac Gerdts' probably most famous game is Concordia, which uses a scoring mechanism that's quite similar to this, where you can kind of invest in what you're going to score in. Because what you're going to do is, as I said, you're going to use one of those actions on that rondel, depending on where you are on it. And one thing you can do is you can travel by moving your boats along the Mediterranean to different points on the board. If you want to explore into a new territory, then you're going to have at least 2 boats, and one of them is going to sink. When you go into a new territory, you're going to take an exploration token, which can potentially be one of the ways you score points at the end of the game. And you also when you go into a new region, you're going to reveal a number of different colony tiles and take money equal to the lowest of them. Now, those colony tiles are important because another action you can take is to colonize, where you pay money to the bank based on the lowest or the cheapest colony there, which means from then on you can start selling goods of that type. Because there is a public market in the game where all players can can sell goods to or can produce goods of, and obviously the more people are selling of a certain type of good, the lower it's going to go on the track, meaning you're going to get more or less money, but you're going to get more money based on if you produce that good. So there's a real kind of supply and demand, push and pull kind of thing, where, you know, if somebody's really producing loads and loads of goods, you can sell them for a lot higher price, and you can play off each other a lot in that way, and to get a lot of money, which money is extremely useful because it lets you build new boats, which is another one of the rondel actions. And it lets you also produce new workers, which can be very important because when you go to a separate action called the privilege space on the board, you can potentially spend workers to invest in a privilege, which is going to increase the points you get for doing a certain type of thing. So the different kind of things you're going to score points on is based on the exploration tiles. You're going to score based on the number of boat houses you've got, or the number of churches you've got, which is basically how you produce people or boats. You're going to score points based on the number of colony tiles you've got, and also on forgive me, I forgot, warehouses, sorry, the number of different factories you make. So basically, the more warehouses you build, which obviously means you can produce more goods, is another one of your scoring criteria. So essentially, you're going to store, from a default position, you're going to score, say, 1 point for each of those things, or I think on the boat houses and the churches, you're going to score 2 points each. But going to the privilege actions lets you take another tile, which means you're now going to score 3 or 4 points each. So you can really focus on a certain strategy and kind of dedicate your actions to focusing on a certain thing, and then maximizing your points by privileging or using the privilege action to cater to that certain thing, which is one of my favorite kind of ideas in board gaming. And you know, that's the kind of the main thing that blew me away with Concordia, was the fact that you can really cater your strategy to how you like by investing in certain cards. This one works very much the same, but focusing on the privileges instead. But obviously going there is going to cost you workers, which are very important because the workers are needed in order to build factories, or to build new boat houses, or to build the churches, which ultimately get you the workers and the boats at a cheaper rate. So everything synergizes together extremely well. There's this nice economy of the game, because and also as the game progresses, I think it's broken into 3 eras. When you get to a certain spot on the board, and it's not based on rounds, it's basically how far you've travelled, the price of getting new workers is going to go up. So essentially, you're going to produce workers based at 50 money to start with, and then any additional more than the first one is going to cost 100. But then when you get to a certain spot in the game, it's going to go up to 200, and then in the third phase, it's going to go up to 300. But if you have more churches or boat houses, then you're going to produce each one for 50. So, you know, it's a real investment to focus on those things, not only for the points, but also for your strategy as well, because you need a steady flow of boats and workers in order to invest in the privileges and to travel farther as well, because you want to travel farther because you want those exploration tokens, which ultimately is going to score you points. So yeah, the way that everything synergizes together is just masterfully done, and you know, the way it's boiled into such few actions on that rondelle wheel is brilliant. So yeah, balance-wise, I just love the different strategies you can take. You know, you can focus on what you want, and you know, it just works extremely well, and all the strategies are equally viable, which is really, really cool. Meaningful decisions wise, it's brilliant. There's abundant meaningful decisions here. You know, do you want to sail while the opportunity is there, or do you want to get to the market first so you can sell your goods at the best profit before your opponents do? You know, are you going to get those boat houses in while they're still cheaper, because the more buildings you produce, the more expensive they get. So again, everything has this urgency to it. You want to do everything at once, and you can't possibly do it all, and it just that tension is mandatory in a game like this. Otherwise it'd feel way too loose. So that tension of getting to the certain spots is excellent. It really is, you know, really raw, because again, you want to do everything, but you can't do everything, and somebody is going to beat you to each thing. So you're going to have to cater your strategy to your actions, and yeah, just really focus or you know, tunnel vision on what you want to do. So yeah, really, really fantastic. Mechanism wise, the way it's boiled into that rondelle wheel is fantastic. Very easy to teach because of that rondelle wheel. You know, you're always limited to 3 actions, because you can only go 1, 2 or 3 spaces. You can choose to discard boats to move an extra space, but that's very rarely an option really, because you want to keep your boats on the board. But yeah, that kind of streamlining of the rules is fantastic, the way it's boiled down into a very simple kind of user interface. And I think the rondelle is something that's probably underused, but Mac Gerdts just, you know, he's just mastered that mechanism. Time investment wise, I think this game just is perfectly on the sweet spot. You can maybe fast track things if you like by focusing on your boats, because the game ends as soon as somebody reaches Nagasaki, which is the furthest spot on the board, and that's going to basically trigger the end round of the game. So it's not like it takes a certain amount of turns to play. The game ends when somebody's explored Nagasaki or all the buildings have gone, and I think probably exploring is always going to be the way, or mostly going to be the way the game ends. So that cadence of the game is nice. The way that the you know, the prices ramp up and your engines ramp up at the same time, you know, it works really well. The uptime of the game as well, very, very nice, because again, there's not really a lot of direct player interaction, but sometimes, you know, by people beating you to things, it's going to cost you more money, and you know, that can sometimes throw you off track in terms of planning your moves ahead. But you've got to be willing, or always kind of expecting that someone is going to snatch things before you, and always have that kind of potential of having to spend more money than you initially anticipated. But it's all about money, having that flow of income to buy your new buildings, to buy your boats and your workers. You know, whenever you get around to the privilege, you probably want to be spending one of your workers on privileges, so you can score ultimately what's going to win you the game in victory points. So yeah, loads of things to think about. Replayability wise, this game is, other than there's loads of different strategies to explore, I think if maybe you focus on the same thing every game, then it can become somewhat repetitive, because there's not a lot of variation in the setup. You know, all the colonies of a certain type are always going to be in the same locations. The value is going to be slightly different, but I think maybe if, you know, you both go for the same type of strategy, then you know, that could potentially make you divert off and try something else. But I think if somebody leaves you on your own and you always go for a certain type of strategy, you can pretty much do that every time you play. But that being said, you do need to dabble on each of the different aspects anyway, because you need your factories, you need your colonies in order to buy and sell stuff, on top of investing in your kind of privileges and stuff like that. Aesthetically, I think this game is absolutely lovely to look at. I love the kind of old world map. It looks fantastic. I can see maybe why somebody wouldn't like the look of it, but personally, I think it looks absolutely stunning. That kind of washed out brown, you know, that old world style map just looks fantastic. The wooden kind of boats and stuff are just so synonymous with Euro games, and I just love the way it all comes together, and it just has that classic Euro feel. And for a game that's 10 years old now, this game does feel ultra fresh. And that was something I kind of felt a bit I was a bit apprehensive on, because I heard from a lot of people that Concordia pretty much did everything this game does better. And I somewhat disagree with that. I mean, I love Concordia, it's one of my favourite games of all time, but this one has a distinct feel to it that's a lot different. It doesn't have the card play, it just focuses on that rondel a bit more. And again, I think it feels different enough to definitely warrant having both of them in my collection. The theme of the game is what you'd expect, is that age of exploration kind of feel to it, you know, colonizing and buying and selling goods and exploring. So if you like that kind of thing, if you like Euro games, you're probably going to like that kind of thing. And this is pretty much what you'd expect from that. And the setup and teardown time as well is no issue at all. I mean, you got the buildings and stuff to set up, but there's not too many of them, and the tiles and stuff. But again, for an hour-and-a-half game, the setup is very proportionate. But yeah, overall, this game just instantly sung to me. I absolutely loved it the moment I hit the table. I just knew I was going to enjoy it when I read the rule book, and I just enjoyed it straight away. I love the way you invest in your own game scoring. I love the tension of the market. I love the the investing in your boatyards and investing in the churches in order to make your workers and your boats, which are always useful. Everything's a viable strategy in this one. There is like constant struggle of getting to the spaces before other people, because sometimes the the jumps in between the colony costs is quite significant, because some might cost as little as 60 money, or some might cost like 150, and money can be pretty tight, especially in the initial kind of phase of the game, where you're not really kind of catered the market to your needs. So yeah, money is always important in this one. And yeah, everything about it is great. It's got the economy side of things, it's got the exploration type of things, it's got the different kind of scoring mechanisms, and just altogether in a wonderful, streamlined, clean package and a wonderful visual design. This game is a top-level Euro game. Mac Gerdts has got a stellar reputation for a reason. This is only the second game of his I've played, but again, I absolutely love it. Is it as good as Concordia? I'd probably say it wasn't. But that's not a slight on the game. Concordia is like easily a 9 out of 10 for me, when this one is a strong 8.6 for me. So it still gets an amazing verdict, and it's a top tier game for me. Definitely want to check out if you like your rondel games, if you like your exploration games, or if you just want your another classic Euro in your collection. This is definitely one to pick up. So that's Navegador. A fantastic game. If you have enjoyed the review, please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.